You've tamed the voices in your head. You've put your courage to the test. Laid all your doubts to rest.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Intuitive Queens podcast from your intuition queen. Before I let you know who's the next guest and what we're going to be talking about, I have a major announcement for you. So this year, Intuitive Queens becomes interactive, and I'm going to have live chats with my guests, or I'm going to go live by myself. This is going to happen approximately a couple of weeks after the episode has gone live. This is so that you have the time to listen to the episode, and if there is anything that you would like to ask either my guests or myself, you have the time to do so. I send emails to my mailing list all the time with the information about the episode and about the guests, and also I ask them to send me their questions, because you might be able to join us or maybe not. Maybe it's not in your time zone, or maybe you're just busy, but you have some questions that you want to either ask myself if it's about a solo episode, or you want to ask my guests about what they do and a particular topics or something that you might be going through that you would like some guidance on. So come on and join us. You can sign up to the newsletter, and you will find the link in the show notes. And if you do, you will get all the information about the podcast, and you will get the information about when we're going to go live. Just follow me on Instagram. I also put information there, because that's the main place where we will be going live. But things might be changing, because it all depends on my guests and how things go. You never know. So make sure you sign up to the newsletter, so then you're always very much updated about what's going on. You can come on live. You can send us your questions, and we will be happy to help you out. This is what I've been wanting to do in the first place when I started the podcast, was to help out, to inspire people. And now I want to give you the opportunity to come and talk live with us. So this was the big announcement. Now I let you to listen to the episode with a new guest. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you soon. Ciao. Hi everyone, welcome from your intuition queen to a new episode of Intuitive Queens podcast. Today I have the pleasure to have Lavinia Brown, who is an inner child expert, and she works with mom. Hi Lavinia, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Lavinia and I go way back, because we've been coaching buddy for a little while we were doing our coaching course with the Beautiful You Academy, and I've seen her grow in her coaching. And she's doing an amazing job working with moms. And I'm very happy and excited to have her here. We had a conversation just earlier, and we just kept talking and talking. So this is a very juicy episode. But I'm going to let Lavinia tell us her story and how she started what brought her to do this, what she's doing, and what was her journey with her intuition.
So intuition has always been there. I think it's in everyone, as we said earlier, but with my clients and with myself, if you come from a childhood in which you weren't necessarily taught how to believe in yourself, and that wasn't role model to you because your parents weren't able to give you that validation and mirroring that you need in order to develop that sense of self, that deep-rooted sense of self, we can't always hear our intuition. So I've always had a sense of intuition, but I don't think I listened to it usually until there was a crisis. And that's when it came out, and that's when I followed it. So when I knew that a relationship was completely wrong, or when I knew that my marriage was completely wrong, then it's kicked up and I followed it. But up until that point, I just kind of did what other people told me to do, or what other people suggested, because I didn't have an opinion. I was so used to having to defer to my parents' opinion of what they thought was right for me, that I didn't know what I thought anymore. So the time during which my intuition really kicked in for me, I think, was, as I said to you, when I became a mum. And I realized, thank you to my second daughter, that what I was doing was not working with her, which was kind of parenting by numbers. Like I said earlier, kind of treating them like pets, which is awful. Funny, not funny, but really being very black and white about what a child was, what their needs were, and only seeing their needs as physical and not really buying into the emotional side of it, because I'd never had that role model to me.
Right.
So it was a real kick up the bum, and this intuitive side of me, I think, kicked in, and I realized that I was not being the kind of mum that I wanted to be, that the way I was parenting was wrong, that I was parenting like my parents had. And that sent me off on a whole journey towards understanding why I was parenting like my parents, and how deeply influential our past can be in our present, in such a kind of everywhere, in every aspect of yourself. And I had anger issues, I felt guilty, I felt suicidal. And once I'd gone down this path, I realized that this was all because of my past, and doing that enabled me to be the mum that I wanted to be. And thanks to my intuition, that was the lesson that came up for me. So that was motherhood, really, where intuition really kicked in.
Right. This is really interesting, because I guess, it took a while for you to realize. So tell me a little bit, what was going on with you before you became a mother and you really realized there was something that needed to change, there was something that you needed to look at? Like, how was your life before that?
Before becoming like in my 20s?
Yes.
My 20s, it was all about, I was really unhappy, but I kind of didn't recognize that I was unhappy. So no intuition. It was just, I'm unhappy, but I don't know what to do about it. And the only recourse I had as a coping mechanism was an eating disorder. So that was the only thing I had that could manage my anxiety and my anger, which were the strongest feelings I had. I remember going to GP about, I cut my ankle or something ridiculous. And I think she said, "How are you?" And I started crying. And she said, "You're very anxious and depressed, aren't you?" And I kind of went, "Yeah." And then I got given antidepressants, and I walked out thinking, what the hell? I went in for my ankle. I've got these pills. And I think that side of me has always had a very strong intuition. I was like, I don't want to take these. But I did, because I'm a good girl, because that's what I was taught to do. I took one, had a bit of a panic attack. What have I done? Oh my God. Put the rest in the bin and never looked back. So I guess my intuition's been there sometimes. I guess that was a crisis, though. Again, it kicked in.
Yeah, when you most needed it. Yeah.
What are you doing? And I thought, no, this isn't right. I need to get help in another way. But so my 20s, it was about managing my emotions in, let's call it, an unhealthy way. But I'm a really big fan of viewing coping mechanisms what they are. They are helping you to cope.
Yeah.
That's what they are there for. If you weren't coping, then what? And in my case, could have been suicide. I was not coping. So a therapist I once saw a long time ago, when I started off on this inner work journey, said to me, how is your eating disorder serving you? And it just floored me. And I was like, what? How is it serving you? What? But it's bad for me. It's terrible. I need to get over it. But how is it serving you? Oh, and that was such a big thing for me.
Great
and
question.
That opened up. It's a great question, and it's one I use a lot now, because a lot of us have so much shame around what we did in our or late teens. But why did you do it? Why did you do it? What symptoms were you trying to manage? And then where do those symptoms come from? So I love that question, and that question made me go back to the root cause of why I was unhappy. So my 20s, I was earning money, I was in corporate life, I was living in Hong Kong, I was an expat, easy life, great weather, lots of drinking, lots of partying, but I never felt happy. I felt like I didn't fit in, and I knew something was wrong, but I didn't listen to that voice. Didn't listen to that voice until I became a mum. So most of my life has been ignoring that voice.
Wow.
And numbing it out, self-soothing through food, alcohol, exercise. Over-exercising was also a thing for me. numbing out those feelings, not being able to hear it above the noise of everyday life.
Yeah, well, I guess, you know, at some point, as you said, you kind of have to find your way to pull through. And if this is the only way, you know, this is what you're going to do until something happens, like you having a child.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what got me to realize that I do deserve happiness, because I hit rock bottom. I was suicidal. I thought I was so bad for my children that they would be better off without me.
Wow.
It's awful to think about that I was in that place. Yeah. And that's why I'm so passionate now about the mums that I work with, because I know what it's like. It's a dark place, dark place. And they're there not out of their own doing. They're there because those were the messages that they received when they were little, that they have done something wrong, that they've got it wrong, that they are to blame, that they made those decisions, so lump them. And now that I'm on the other side and I realize I deserve to be happy, and this is still my path, I'm still not very good, and I still don't put myself first. This is something I'm still, you know, working with. But that's why I'm so passionate about telling mums, you don't have to suffer. Guess what? It's not about suffering. I mean, it is in the kind of broader Buddhist sense, life is suffering, yes. But you're not meant to like just sit there
sacrifice yourself all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
And what kind of role modeling are you giving to your kids if you think you're terrible? You know, we're just perpetuating that generational trauma if we do that. So, you know, you can break the cycle, and you do deserve happiness. And I know that now. I know that I deserve happiness, and I am happy, but I still have to tweak it. I still have to tweak my sense of needing to be there for others in the way that I was for my parents. So that's still an ongoing.
Tell me more about this. Tell me more about, you said that your first child, you were parenting your first child in a way, and then the second child arrived and kind of brought a storm for you because you really realized a lot of things. So tell me a little bit about that, and how were you feeling in that moment? Because I know from my friends, when I hear them talking about their children, the frustration that you might have, and having parents all over you trying to tell you what to do and what not to do and all that. So how that woke you up, if we can say that way?
I'm very grateful to my second daughter, because if it hadn't been for her, I would still be parenting by numbers, treating them like pets. It'd be all like, sometimes I liken it to puppets. You know, my secret ideal would be having 3 puppets. I just tell what to do, they do it, they're all the same, they all do it identically, job done.
Easy.
But children aren't like that. And the more I had kids, because I had 3 in 3 years, the more I was like, oh, they're not the same. Oh, I can't do the same. That's not working with her. But how come? That's not fair. Well, the first time round, like, what? You mean I need to do some more work? I need to change and see what she's like? That was a big lesson for me. Like, and I parented, like, this is a kind of, what's the word? Not explosive. People either love or hate her. So I did the Gina Ford method, and people, like, nowadays, so my youngest is just turned 8. So it seems like literally another generation. If you look at Instagram, which didn't bloody exist when I had kids, and my God, if I'd had Instagram, I'd be a different parent. I wouldn't feel suicidal for a start, because I'd have had a community. There was no community. You had no one to talk to. You couldn't go online at 2 a.m. when you were breastfeeding thinking, what the fuck have I done? There was the people from your NCT group, but that was it. There wasn't a village there, which there is now. I think is brilliant. That's what social media has been really great at. But, you know, now it's all about attachment parenting and responsive parenting, and that your child has got feelings. I know that sounds ridiculous to say that I didn't realize my child had feelings, but I didn't. Crazy, right?
No, I guess, you know,
that a baby, because it wasn't necessarily what people did. It was starting. And people might say, oh, that's bollocks. It was. But I didn't come across it. And the 2 people that had kids before me, who I really respected, they said, Gina Ford's amazing. And I am a bit of a control freak, and I definitely was. and I love my sleep. I am bad without sleep. And she teaches you how to get your kids to sleep. So I was like, job done. Of course I'm doing this method.
Right.
But it is quite black and white. It is black and white. And you do let them cry out. And like crying out, if you go on certain parenting forums now, crying out is like cardinal sin. It's like you have damaged your child. And I think I've got a friend that's just had a baby, and she says Instagram's good, but Instagram's also, I'm going to talk about Instagram, social media, it's very divisive because people have almost become really entrenched in their viewpoint. And it's, if you don't do it this way, you have damaged your child. Whatever viewpoint you've taken, it's if you don't do it this way, you have damaged your child. And so I'm sure I damaged my first child, definitely. But what I say to my clients now is, yes, you probably have, and you probably will. Do you know what? You probably will continue to damage them.
Yeah.
But we have the tools now that our parents didn't have. So I always say, well, do you say sorry when you shout? Well, of course I do. Did your parents say sorry? Never. Well then, do you talk to your children about their feelings? And do you say, sorry, mummy was feeling really angry then, and I'm sorry I shouted, you were naughty then. And I shouted because I was angry, but I shouldn't have done that. Well, of course I do. Well, did your parents do that? No. So there we go. Okay, we are not our parents.
Exactly.
We'll create drama, and there will be times of conflict. But do you know what? That's all part of becoming a resilient human being. You can't be the perfect parent that carries them around in this little cotton wool box, and then they go to work, and then they're bullied, and then they collapse. You know, it's inevitable that we're going to damage them, inverted commas. I'm saying inverted commas because that's part of life.
Yeah.
But I've lost my thread now.
No, I guess that, you know, you said it right. Like,
second child. Yeah, no,
go ahead then.
Child. She wasn't going to be parented by numbers. She wasn't having any of it. So that is what woke me up to the fact that I was parenting by numbers and I shouldn't be. And this child had feelings and she had rage. She had rage. And I actually think it's past life stuff because she did not want to be soothed. She didn't want to be soothed. Whatever I did, I had neighbors come in going, no, you just go away. I'll take over. Maybe she can smell you or whatever. You're anxious.
Wow.
Leave the room. My neighbor, after an hour, came back to me and went, I don't know how you do it. And I was like, I'm not doing it. Look at me. I'm not doing it. I can't do it either. So yeah, that was the the breaking point.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think that, you know, being a parent, it's such a difficult job to do because you have to learn from scratch. There isn't a book that tells you what to do. I mean, there are books that tell you what you should be doing, but then really it's about you and your experiences and your child. And you just have to really follow your intuition and try to figure out what's best for them. But I think that also having had that wake up call to realize that you had to change was a major step forward toward being a good mom for your children, rather than having people that just, you know, this is what they have to do, this is what they have to learn, and it's either me or them, or, you know, those kind of very strict old school way of behaving.
Definitely. Yeah.
So,
but I didn't have the intuition, I didn't have the confidence to do it by myself. There were lots of people that did, so it's not like, you know, my generation all parented in that way. That's what I chose to do because it felt safe. In the same way that I was quite successful at school because it felt safe. I knew what was expected of me and I did it well.
Yeah.
Parenting was far too open-ended for me. Like, and I still feel a little bit like that about being creative. It's like, if I don't get given the rules to follow, I panic. It's like, but how do I do it? But then what do I need to do? And then, but then, and what are you looking for? My friends laugh at me because they know I do this, but I don't feel safe if I don't have really strong parameters. And then within that parameter, I can be creative, but I need those parameters. And parenting was just too, I don't know. What the fuck? I've got no idea. And like, I don't know who I am. So how can I possibly be responsive to my child and attached to my child if I'm not either of those things to myself?
Right.
I think that's the key. It's all very well. And I'm so in awe of mothers that can do responsive parenting and attachment parenting, because I'm in awe of the attachment that they have to themselves and the groundedness within themselves and the connection that they have to their essence, to who they are. But I did not have that. That came after a long time. And thanks to my children poking my wounds constantly, I couldn't walk away. And that's the people that I work with, the people that don't know who they are.
Right.
So how can they be the mums that they want to be? Has to start with us first.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is such a crucial part of ourselves. And I find it with my clients, and my clients are different from yours, but I think that the problem is we don't know ourselves enough. We think we know ourselves. Like I've done in the last 12 years so much inner work that I can say now I know how I function energetically, emotionally, mentally. I still do my work every now and again, because things change and you want to upgrade and whatever else things happen. But the main problem is not knowing who you are, not knowing how you manage your emotion and why you manage your emotion that way, and figuring out what you need to release and what you need to heal so that you can be better.
Absolutely. And also not knowing yourself out of context. So for me, the context of my clients' childhood was usually very chaotic, emotionally chaotic, unpredictable, unsafe. And that's what they continue to create.
Yeah.
So they know who they are within those restrictive conditions. We're all brilliant in a crisis. Like, give me like a burning building, or, you know, I think once I was in a boat that capsized, once I was in an aeroplane that capsized.
Wow.
There was a fire in the engine. I'm brilliant because I don't feel any trauma, because it's my comfort zone. I'm like as though I've just had a massage. I get very, very calm. Whereas in normal life, that's where I struggled. In normal life, I would create this drama and anxiety over the tiniest things. So it's knowing yourself also out of context, the context being how you were brought up. And of course, we only know that context. This is often part of the healing journey, going, oh, I didn't realize that wasn't normal to be treated that way.
Right.
Well, neither did I. But guess what? Being spanked, being whatever it was, being punished, being emotionally abused, no, that's not normal.
Right.
Or it wasn't necessary and it wasn't kind.
Yes.
It's not what you deserved. So that's a big part of it, isn't it? Understanding what your normality is.
Yeah.
And how it can be better.
Yes. And also, you know, realizing that you can have a better life, that you can feel better, and then, you know, it's just a matter of really go a little bit deeper and see things as they are.
Yeah.
So you started working with moms, and I remember you started working with mom, and we were talking about it earlier. You started with the self-care, and now you're going very, very deep into inner child healing and figuring out where the wounds are coming from in terms of how your parents treated you as a child, and so how you're treating your children, or you're just managing yourself. How did that come about? Was that a natural flow for you because you realized there were patterns among your clients, or there was something else that brought you to get to that point?
Really good question. I was doing the inner child work for myself. I've been doing it for 6 years, but I wasn't teaching it or sharing it until maybe, or I guess I was, but in drips and drabs. And then when I saw the effect it was having on other people and how transformational it was, it became more what I did, and then I attracted clients that needed that, and it kind of all happened at the same time. It wasn't a conscious decision, I don't think. I think I realized that self-care can only come when you love yourself, obviously. Self-care is self-love in action. But there's self-love and there's self-love. And I didn't get to love myself or even acknowledge who I was for a long time. And I'm still on that journey. That's why I say I still struggle sometimes. I definitely don't put myself first. That would be just bizarre for me. And I still don't show myself the compassion that I show my clients. I know I don't. I know I don't. And I need to, because that's ridiculous not to. I need to role model it, if anything. But it's still a journey for me. And inner child work was what allowed me to access that love. Nothing else has been able to do that for me. So that was the game changer, that I realized that's what was allowing me to access my self-love. And I guess, to answer your question, the more I loved myself, the more I ended up getting more niched into narcissistic parents or difficult childhoods, women. I mean, I don't market it as that, because people often like, oh no, my childhood was fine. No, I was great. I went to private school, and I know we used to go on holiday, and we didn't have money that much, but it was always fine. And I'm like, okay, so that's not how I market it. Are you really angry? Do you feel angrier than you should be, and are you letting that anger out on your kids? Do you feel guilty all the time? Do you feel sadder than you should? Do you find it hard to feel happy with the amazing things that are in your life? Is there like a void that you're trying to fill? Oh yeah.
Then there we go.
Well, same thing. It's just how I market it. But that's come from your childhood.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about this, a little bit more in details, because I think this is such a topic that everyone should really work on, because yes, as you said, we had a good childhood, but really if we go deeper and deeper and we look at ourselves and how we respond and how we get triggered and how things in our lives go, there is always a connection to how we've been treated as a child and what kind of emotional wounds we have. Even if our parents didn't do that on purpose, there is a reason, and whatever come through for you. But this is such an important part of healing that I think, mother or not mother, as a woman, you should be doing.
Absolutely. And man,
yes.
Everyone, every single person, because if you don't, your inner child is in control. And we see it. Look at our politicians. Their inner children that are in control. So by that I mean the part of them that is out of control, their little toddler. The toddler that is reacting out of jealousy, anger, spite, envy, frustration, disappointment. If you don't look at this stuff, you are unable to regulate yourself, and you're unable to connect to who you really are. You're just in a reactive state. I spent most of my life in a reactive state. People calling me aggressive. I knew I was very defensive. I hated criticism. And I had no idea that there was another side to me that was calm. I just thought I was fiery, let's call it. Fiery, aggressive. Oh yeah, that's because I'm half French. You're English, you don't understand. But I was just reacting because I had so much unprocessed anger and anxiety and not feeling safe. Why do we act all defensive and aggressive? Because we don't feel safe. And that's what our politicians are doing. Trigger happy with wars. They feel threatened. The inner child feels threatened. I'm certainly no political expert, but we all need to do this work in order to calm the fuck down. I
think you touch upon a very important topic, which is feeling safe. because I think that that is the major thing. Like, if you're not feeling safe within yourself and you don't really know who you are and how you function, then of course you're going to get into a relationship that might be abusive. Of course you're going to get into the wrong kind of job. Of course you're going to get into situations that at some point will bring you to a breaking point, whatever that could be. And you're going to get to a point where you're frustrated, you feel guilty, you feel ashamed, you don't know how to parent your kids, you feel it's too much, and as bad as it goes, you might escalate to lower levels. So what would you say what is the thing that you think it's important for you to do to start to learn to feel safe within yourself?
You're right. Safety is the key. I mean, I could almost call myself a safety coach. But again, this is usually hidden in clients. So they're like, oh no, I had a happy childhood. And then I might ask them a few questions. Oh yeah, no, my parents, yeah, were you allowed to express yourself? Were you allowed, like, what happened if you got something wrong? Oh, I got things wrong a lot. Or were you allowed to express yourself? Not really. Did you feel safe? And at first they're usually like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, there weren't like bombs around.
Yeah.
And you can see it's like got something ticking. And then usually it's like, no, now that you can, now that you say it, no, I've never thought of it like that, but I didn't feel safe. And that's going back to attachment, which I didn't know how to do. I didn't receive. And you have to be able to be regulated yourself as a mother to be able to give that to your child. So that is our primary duty, to be able to be calm. How can you be calm if you feel safe? How do you feel safe? For me, it's always been the inner child has been the really, I'm sure there are lots and lots of other ways to feel safe, but for me, it's the inner child tool. And that's what's helped me to feel safe. And that's what I teach others. And then mothers can be that safety, that anchor for their children. And then and then we've broken the generational cycle.
Yes.
But for me, it's always been about, first of all, recognizing that you didn't feel safe and that you don't. And it's really subtle.
Subtle. Yeah.
Before you recognize that you don't feel safe, you don't really get what it means to feel safe.
Yeah.
But definitely if you were caught, if you had physical punishment, that's a brilliant way to get a child not to feel safe. Because your parents are meant to protect you and create safety. If you expressed negativity in any form, crying, moaning, saying you wanted to do something and you were told you couldn't, and so you cried, any of that kind of thing, if that wasn't allowed, or if that created a reaction in your parents that then made you feel bad, so often like your mum might have acted or rejected, or your dad might have said, you've upset your mother, or it caused a scene. If ever you did something, if ever you showed your emotion and that created a backlash, you're not going to feel safe.
Right.
You're not going to feel safe connecting to your emotions. So we just shut them off.
Yeah.
We shut them off, and we become highly attuned to our parents' emotions or our primary caregivers' emotions, because they are the ones that we've been taught, these are more important.
Yeah.
These are more important. So you lose all connection to yourself. And then how can you feel safe?
Yeah.
Impossible. So yeah, I think you're right. Safety is at the core of everything. It should be at the core of all coaching.
Yeah.
Because the rest is just mindset, and mindset does not stick. It will stick for maybe an hour, maybe a couple of hours, maybe a day. If you're lucky, a week. Great. I've not got anything against mindset work. But if you've not healed the root cause that's causing you to behave like that, you will keep slipping back into the same patterns.
Yeah.
And often about safety.
Yeah, I agree. And that was my experience. Like, I didn't, as you said earlier, I didn't really realize what it meant to feel safe within yourself, and what it meant to get safety to yourself, like to start to do things for yourself that will get you to receive what you didn't receive when you were a child. And I think that's the most difficult part to understand. And once you do, then you will do things in order to get you to that point. But I do see how that is difficult, because it's difficult to think that you don't feel safe. How can you not feel safe? I mean, you have become maybe a successful in your job, and now you have a beautiful family and whatever else. So everything is fine. You have safety and security. So how is it that you don't feel safe? Of course you do. And the reality is, within yourself, you don't feel safe because you don't feel safe to express yourself freely. And you always have that back in your mind, someone telling you, what are you doing? This is wrong, and things like this. So yeah, it's a big part of a lot of work that I also do, because I think that's crucial for everybody.
Yeah, totally. And also feeling safe in your body. And the work that you do is feeling safe, trusting your intuition. There's so many different ways of feeling safe.
Yeah.
And the safety in your body is something that we're kind of taught not to do. We're not taught to listen to our bodies in school. We're taught to override our bodies. My kids come back from school now saying that they weren't allowed to go to the loo when they asked to go to the loo. It makes me mad, because I'm like, you needed to go to the loo. And I get what the teacher's trying to do. Oh no, you should go to the loo during playtime.
Yeah.
But what if they don't need to go to the loo in playtime?
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't need to, and they need to now. And then we're overriding our body. It all starts with such simple things like needing the loo, not being allowed to go, having your period. Like we talked about, I do menstrual work, learning, being allowed to rest, not having to do games. And I don't get this, oh no, it's about feminine empowerment, that you can do anything with your period. Sure, of course, you can go horse riding, you can go skydiving with your period. Of course you can, but do you want to?
Exactly.
Is that good for your body? We all have unique bodies. Does that feel like that's something that you want to do? If it doesn't, then you should be allowed to go. I don't want to do games today at school. But often they are still forced to.
Well, I don't think there is enough communication about what it means to be a woman first, and how hormones affect us, and emotionally also, because it's not just a physical thing. They think it's a physical thing, and maybe yes, you have some pain, but it's not just that. And yeah, as you said, like if they tell you you shouldn't, that you should just pull through and do whatever everybody does, then of course you think you're wrong and they're right. So that's what you should be doing.
Yeah. And then you don't feel safe in your body because you don't trust your body. You don't know how to hear it.
Yeah.
And so what happens? We end up getting ill because your body's so ignored. It has to go, hello.
Yes.
And the signals have to be so strong that you break your legs. You have to spend a month in bed, or you get cancer or something, or an autoimmune disease. I don't know. Not everyone's going to agree with me, but I don't think it's a coincidence that there's this explosion of autoimmune diseases right now.
Yeah.
In a time when we are so separated from our sense of self. What does that create? Unsafety.
Yeah. I agree with you completely. Yeah. If we only could listen to ourselves, do what ourself tells us to do, and heal ourselves, then we will be, I don't want to say free from any diseases, because that might not be the case, but we'll be in so much better position. A lot of the work that I do is also emotional healing, because emotional healing only helps you to physical healing. So absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But everyone also knows, it's like people are like, oh no, physical illness is physical illness. Yes, okay, fine. But then we also know that when you're stressed, you don't absorb nutrition that well, because the systems that are essential to your survival will shut down. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I know that. So it's only a teeny weeny step further to say that when you're stressed or your immune system is down, you're going to get ill. You're going to be more susceptible. Yeah. Okay, so actually we all agree that your state of mind, your state of emotional health is absolutely linked.
Yeah.
And I also believe, again, maybe this is a step too far for some people, that if we hold on to resentment, grief, anger, that this will cause issues later on. Yes. Why? Because it's affecting your nervous system.
Yeah.
It is affecting it because you're keeping trauma in your body.
Yeah.
So how on earth would that not have an effect on you physically
No,
after
exactly.
years and years of chronic exposure to it?
Yeah.
It's obvious to me. But
Yeah.
and when you tell most people, they then they agree with you. It's just like joining the dots. But yeah, this stuff, this like you said, we all have to do this stuff for our own health, mental, physical, and emotional.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not disconnected. We're not like, it's not that you can take the emotion and put it in a box and take the physical and put it in a box. We're just one thing all together. Everything is connected, and you know, working on your emotion will help your physical and vice versa. So you know, it's not a thing that it's just separate. We need to work on ourselves in that kind of way to learn more, be better at coping with things, and also help ourselves. And as you said, if you don't do that for yourself, then of course dealing with other people, kids, husband, wife, whatever, parents, friends, colleagues, it's going to be always very difficult, because there's always going to be that part of you that is triggered somehow, that doesn't feel validated enough, doesn't feel loved enough, and there's always going to be some major drama going through, and that becomes again something that you experience also on a physical level. So yeah, we are connected.
Definitely. And yeah, I totally agree. We will look for that validation and love and approval everywhere.
Yeah.
So often clients come to me, I don't know if you have the same, with marital problems. And they're like, well, I don't know whether to go to a marriage counselor first, or should I try coaching first? And I always say, listen, I can only work with you. We can't control anyone else. So let's work with you first, and then see what happens. And usually it's because they're projecting their stuff onto their husband. That doesn't mean that the husband's not at fault in any way.
Course.
There's often stuff going on as well. But when you can see clearly, when you've like removed your glasses of your past, your like childhood issue glasses, everything just becomes so much clearer.
Yeah.
And we do it to our kids.
Yeah.
If you're projecting the love that you need onto your kids, that's just perpetuating the same cycle that happened to you.
Yeah.
And I believe it's selfish. It's our duty to do that as mothers. We have to clear that as mothers, surely.
Yeah, I agree completely with you. And I think, once you learn that about yourself, then your responses are going to be different. You're going to feel freer, because finally that anger subsides. Finally, that resentment is gone. Maybe not completely, because I think we're always in process and, in progress, and we always have to keep doing this kind of work. But you will get to a point where your anger will no longer control you that much. Your resentment no longer will control you that much, and therefore you will be different as a mother. You will be different as a partner, and as you will be different with your parents. So you will see your parents differently. You will no longer respond in certain ways to things that used to drive you crazy, and now you could just easily let them go because whatever, that's what you think, and that's not who I am. So I now know that.
Yeah,
I now know that you can say whatever about me, but it doesn't faze me, because that's your opinion and I don't care.
And I'm rooted in myself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I feel safe.
Yes. Always back there. All right. Before we wrap up, I'd love for you to give the moms that are listening to or watching this on YouTube some advice on if this podcast is resonating with you. What would be the thing that they could do to start, if maybe this was something new for them to hear? What would be that thing they could do to start see if maybe there is something they need to do, and maybe they need to do some work, and just to get them to start off and then decide what else to do?
I always start with triggers. So triggers, if you don't know what that is, are the things that get you angry, frustrated, disappointed, sad. Difference between something that makes you those things and a trigger is that the trigger will cause a disproportionate reaction in you than it should. And then people go, oh, but how do I know if it's disproportionate? You know. You know, if you ask yourself, you know deep down if it's disproportionate or not. So I'm talking about, like, for example, I used to hate people being late for me. It used to make me mad. Like, and I guess a trigger is also something that stays with you, right? So you'll be annoyed by it, but it'll just keep being there. It's like you can't shake it off. It'll just niggle, and you'll keep going back over it, and it still annoys you the next day. That's a trigger. So something that annoys you because your kids have been annoying, that's annoying. But it's when it lingers and you can't shake it off, and you shout way more than you thought you should, really. And you know when you're doing that, because I see it as being taken back to your inner child. You're being taken back to that root cause, the time during which you first created the belief that is being triggered. So I ask people to look at what is causing a disproportionate reaction in you.
Right.
Anger, grief, sadness, doesn't matter what it is, but what is causing a disproportionate reaction with you? Next stage, try not to look at exactly what it is. It doesn't matter exactly what it is, because you could go, oh, well, I didn't used to talk to people in a call center when I was a child. No, of course you didn't. You were a child. But what's the feeling that you get when you're triggered? So, and what belief about yourself is that feeling linked to? So, for example, being on the phone to someone in a call center, I mean, it's annoying for a lot of people, but for me, again, it used to make me really, really mad, because I thought, you're not listening to me. You're not hearing what I'm saying. And I keep on saying it over and over again. So the feeling was frustration, powerlessness. Like, for fuck's sake, why aren't I making any change here? Why is no one like hearing what I'm saying? So the powerlessness, the frustration, that's the feeling. That was the same feeling that I felt as a child when my parents weren't hearing me. They weren't hearing what I had to say, or they were shutting me down, or they were talking over me. So the belief was, I don't matter, I am invisible, I am powerless. So, and then you would start to explore that. Right. Then you'd start to explore, okay, that belief that you had in your childhood, let's heal that. So then that would start off that process. But you start always with the trigger. What is the trigger making you feel? What is the belief that it is kind of poking at in you? The belief that you are what? And then working out where you would have got that belief from when you were little, and when you felt the same way as that trigger was making you feel. Yeah, that's always a really good starting, because a lot of people that I work with don't remember much about their childhoods, and they're worried. They're like, but I can't remember. How am I going to heal my past if I can't remember it? And I always say it doesn't matter, because your triggers are pointers to what we need to work on. So you actually don't need any memories, really. I mean, I'm sure you'll have a few, and the ones that you have are there for a reason, because your psyche wants you to work with them. But if you don't have any, we can always go in your everyday life. What pisses you off? What makes you see red?
That's a good one. Yes, that's a very good one.
And another one is what pisses you off that doesn't piss other people off. So like for me, people being late, some people couldn't care less of people, and now it doesn't bother me because I've worked on it. But I knew that I would get more annoyed than other people. So that's another, okay, there's something going on here.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you're right. You don't need that many memories. Things will come to you as you keep working. Things will come to you. Exactly. Okay, right. So now tell us where we can find you. So if anybody that is listening or watching wants to check you out or work with you, then they can find you. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will see everything in the show notes, but also it will pop by as you're watching.
So my website is Lavinia Brown, it's my name, .com. And I'm on Instagram a lot. So I post a lot on Instagram with insights into how you might be feeling and ways in which your past may be affecting your present. And that's at Lavinia Brown Coaching. In terms of working with me, I have 3 online programs, which are self-led. They're yours for life. You can do them over and over again. Or if you want to go deeper and work with me one-to-one, then I have a 3-month coaching program. And over the course of that 12 weeks, we have face-to-face sessions, but I also offer 24/7 online access to me. And frankly, that's why I get the results I get, because that online access is what allows you to feel safe enough, back to safety, safe enough to go to the places that you haven't been to before that were too painful. And that's how we heal them.
Yeah. All right. Well, Lavinia, thank you so much. It was such a beautiful conversation. I will stay here talking forever about this topic because I think it's just important and super fascinating. But thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
Well, I hope you loved the conversation we had with Lavinia. Please do check her out because she's doing a great work. And if you're a mom and you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling whatever feeling, it's worth to give her a look and see what she's doing. And if you like this episode, please subscribe, share it, and you can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the podcast platforms. And if you want to work with me, just go to my website, theintuitionqueen.com, or follow me on Instagram, theintuitionqueen, and you can find a lot of good information about my programs, my sessions. I do color reading sessions. I work with colors, emotional healing, inner child healing, and yeah, just pop over, say hi. Let me know if this episode resonated with you. What was your takeaway? And I will see you next week.
Your
Ciao.
future's at the door.